Hello, welcome to Coffee Time Again, Exposing the Truth. Dale at the mic. This is the first of two special podcasts. I will upload this one, and now I have an interview with the manager of my local Dutch Brothers Coffee, 520. Check them out if you're lucky enough to have a Dutch Brothers near, or even far. They're great. Their coffee drinks cannot be outdone, along with the friendliest employees anywhere. At the nearest Dutch Brothers. Even if it's a long way, it is worth it. It is so wonderful. So grab a cup and enjoy the show. I have mine, a cup of black tea with peach syrup. I know it's not coffee, but it's wonderful. From Dutch Brothers. I am sad to have to say this, however, I must take time off for surgery on my right shoulder again. This is the second time I've had surgery done on my right shoulder, so I have to have it replaced. So I will be out about 6 to 8 weeks to heal again. I have my operation on 5/27. I will be back ASAP with another edition of Coffee Time Again, Exposing the Truth. So let's get started. Coffee, the history of. The following quotes come from https://www.ncausa.org about-coffee/history-of-coffee. Coffee is my favorite drink, and I have about 3 to 6 cups a day in chilly weather. Summertime, I drink a lot of tea. I drink mine without any additives, including sugar and creamer. In other words, au naturel. This is the first quote. Coffee, grown worldwide, can trace its heritage back centuries to the ancient coffee forests of the Ethiopian plateau. There, legend says that the goat herder Kandalai first discovered the potential of these beloved beings. The story goes that Kandalai discovered coffee after he noticed that after eating berries from a certain tree, his ghost became so energetic they didn't want to sleep at night. Kandalai reported his findings to the abbot of the local monastery, who made a drink of the berries and found it kept him alert through the long hours of evening prayer. The abbot shared his discovery with other monks in the monastery, and the knowledge of the energizing berries began to spread. As the word moved eastward and coffee reached the Arabian Peninsula, it began a journey that would bring those beings across the globe. Unquote. Coffee has been used far longer in the Middle East. I read a few dozen deaths ago they used for several centuries. It was when a cutting was stolen that really started its world travels, and is now the most consumed drink, in my honest opinion. At least it is for me. Here's the second quote, and as a part of the timeline around the 15th century. Quote, coffee cultivation and trade began on the Arabian Peninsula. By the 15th century, coffee was being grown in Yemeni districts of Arabia, and in the 16th century it was known in Persia, Egypt, Syria, and Turkey. Coffee was not only enjoyed in homes, but also in many public coffee houses which began to appear across the cities in the Near East. The popularity of the coffee houses were unequal, and people frequented them for all kinds of social activity. Not only did the patrons drink coffee and engage in conversation, they all listened to music, watched performers, played chess, kept current on the news. Coffee houses quickly became such an important center of exchange of information, they were often referred to as schools of the wise. Unquote. With thousands of pilgrims visiting the holy city of Mecca each year from all over the world, knowledge of this wine of Araby began to spread. Unquote. So now we have a part of a timeline to start the growth and spread of coffee. By the end of the 16th century, it was all through the Near East. And a movement that brought us Dutch Brothers and all the rest of the coffee houses, it started its path to the New World in a few short years. We still have coffee houses today, a place to sit, relax, talk, read, watch sport, meet for a meeting, and drink your coffee to your heart's contentment. Quote, European travelers to the Near East brought back stories of an unusual dark black beverage. By the 17th century, coffee had made its way to Europe and was becoming popular across the continent. Some people reacted to this new beverage with suspicion or fear, calling it the bitter invasion of Satan. The local clergy condemned coffee when it came to Venice in 1650. The controversy was so great that Pope Clement VIII was asked to intervene. He decided to taste the beverage for himself before making a decision, and he found the drink so satisfying he gave it papal approval. Hallelujah! Despite such controversy, coffee houses were quickly becoming centers of social activity and communication in major cities of England, Austria, France, Germany, and Holland. In Europe, penny universities sprang up, so-called because of the price of a penny one could buy and purchase a cup of coffee and engage in stimulating conversation. Coffee began to replace the common breakfast drink beverages of the time, beer and wine. Those who drank coffee instead of alcohol began to be alert and energized. Not surprisingly, the quality of their work was greatly improved. We like to think this was the precursor to the modern office of coffee service. There were over 300 coffee houses in London, many of which attracted like-minded patrons, including merchants, shippers, brokers, and artists. Many businesses grew out of these specialized coffee houses. Lloyd's of London, for example, came into existence at the Edward Lloyd's Coffee House, unquote. Again, we see the rapid expansion of the great beverage. Coffee is a stimulant and causes weight loss. It can have other side effects, which I'll get into later in the podcast. As you most likely know, Lloyd's of London is still open today and more than 4 centuries later. Not as a coffee house, of course. Or if there might be one. You can, if you're a coffee drinker, even just 1 cup, 10 ounces or less, or even more, it does not matter. You can see how much benefit you can get by consuming it. Even if Pope Clement VIII had condemned it, we would still be drinking it today. It's that good. In the mid-1600s, coffee was brought to New Amsterdam, later called New York by the British. Now, coffee houses began to rapidly appear. Tea continued to be the favored drink in the New World until 1773, when the colonists revolted against a heavy tea tax on tea imposed by King George III. The revolt, known as the Boston Tea Party, would forever change the American drinking preference to coffee. Coffee, the favorite drink of the civilized world. President Thomas Jefferson, we got his word for it, too. Yes, it was a Revolutionary War that brought coffee to the forefront in America and now the end in the world. But wait, there's more to come. Quote, as demand for coffee continued to spread, there was fierce competition to cultivate coffee outside of Arabia. The Dutch finally got a seeding in the latter half of the 17th century. The first attempts to plant them in India failed, but they were successful in their efforts in Bavaria, an island of Java, what is now Indonesia. Plants thrived, and soon the Dutch had a productive trade in coffee. They expanded the cultivation of coffee trees to the island of Sumatra, which is my favorite brand, and Celebes. That is the real start of the Dutch in the world affairs. The Dutch India Company had it in the bag, so to speak. It would take the Dutch far afield in the world of commerce, even into the colonies in Africa and the New World, which is, of course, the name New Amsterdam comes from. Quote, in 1714, the mayor of Amsterdam presented a gift of young coffee plant to King Louis XV of France. The king ordered it planted in the Royal Botanical Garden in Paris. In 1723, a young naval officer, Gabriel de Charoux, obtained a seedling from the king's plant. Despite a challenging voyage, complete with horrendous weather, a saboteur who decided to destroy the seedling in a pirate attack, he managed to port it safely to Martinique. Once planted, the seedling not only thrived, but is credited with the spread of over 18 million coffee trees on the island of Martinique in just the next 50 years. Imagine that. Even more incredible is that this seedling is the parent of all coffee trees throughout the Caribbean, Central, and South America. Famed Brazilian coffee owes its existence to Francisco de Melo Porreta, who was sent by the Emperor of French Guiana to get the coffee seedling. The French were not worried to share, but the French governor's wife, captivated by his good looks, gave him a large bouquet of flowers before he left. They buried deep inside were enough coffee seeds to begin to what today billion-dollar business. Missionaries, travelers, traders, colonists continued to carry coffee seeds to new islands, and the coffee trees were planted worldwide. Coffee plantations were established in magnificent tropic forests and on rugged mountain highlands. Some crossed flourished, while others were short-lived. New nations were established on coffee economies. Fortunes were made and lost. By the end of the 18th century, coffee had become the world's most profitable export. After crude oil, coffee is the most commonly sought-after commodity in the world. Unquote. Got that? Oil, then coffee is number 2. That's amazing. Just wrap your head around that. It all started with a stolen cutting of coffee tree to become almost as important as oil. Next is the list of 11 known and real side effects of caffeine. Dehydration, 2 headache, 3 craving caffeine, 4 muscle pains, 5 eye pain, 6 fever, 7 shakiness, 8 heart palpitations, 9 nerve pain, 10 constipation, which is a pain in the pituitary. Most of the side effects here are common for all withdrawals from all drugs, from alcohol to PCP and beyond. I noticed one was missing, which is quite common. That one is agitation, which can happen in about 5 hours after the last use, depending on the drug. Coffee being one that can happen in about 5 hours. The half-life of caffeine is about 5 hours. See the connection? All side effects depend on the half-life of the drug. You will find the half-lives of most drugs on Google. Let's start with number 1, dehydration, which happens within an hour of stopping the caffeine, and the treatment is water. Number 2, headache within a couple hours. Craving any drug. There's no cure. You just have to go through it. It might take you a few days to weeks, depending on the drug. Caffeine may be 2 to 3 days. Muscle pain, which can take a couple of weeks, I believe it is. I know it was with heroin. 6, eye pain. I've experienced this, so I don't know what to say about it. shakiness. I still have them from my alcohol use, so there is, in my humble opinion, nothing you can do about it. 8. Liver pain. Again, I know expensive that experience, so I have nothing really to say about it. Constipation, which would be nasty, at least it is to me. Side effects that happen while still using a drug like caffeine. So an OD on caffeine is bad. A person can develop tolerance for all drugs. That just means you can use more than in the past, and it takes more to obtain the same effects. It's not a good sign, and the loss of tolerance is an even worse sign. Agitation is real nasty. It becomes anger, which leads to very many increased problems of all sorts. Thank you for listening to this on coffee, and now support me and keep this alive. Thank you for listening to the show. There are show notes and a place to comment at https://coffee-time-lisbon.com/website. I hope you liked what you heard and will tell others about me. I'm attempting to get a following that both disagrees and agrees with me. I do not want yes men. If you disagree, wonderful. I'm happy to have you here as a part of the Coffee Time Again team. I do not talk about the news of the day. I'm attempting to give a history lesson that is just as important about what is going on as the headlines of the day. Please do not hesitate to contact me. Just remember, I want a clean show, meaning no cussing, name yet calling, yelling, or hate around. You can disagree with me and not be disagreeable about it. Your idea for a show, just send me an email at host@coffee-time-again.com or the comments at the show's website. As usual, consider supporting the Convention of States, also known as an Article 5 Convention. It is important to your country. Their website is www.conventionofstates.com. Their agenda is full of great ideas, including term limits for members of Congress, not the least of their great ideas. Please remember about Dutch Brothers Coffee. And support me. Help keep this alive at https://go.fm/coffee-time-again. And again, thank you very much for listening to the show. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you the next time when I get back from my surgery.